Without doubt, the most overlooked thing in e-commerce that can drive massive revenue is your email pop-up, aka your list growth. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the strategies that we use with clients to make sure that their email pop-up converts above 15% and they get as many people into their email list as possible and ultimately make the most revenue possible. I'm Jake, the co-founder at On Brand Emails. I have been doing email marketing for just over 2 years now. We've helped clients in the US, Ireland, the UK, all across the world, essentially, in all different niches. And yeah, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what works and what doesn't. So, number one, I'm going to go through the triggers that work. We usually just keep it like a lot of the stuff you will see, guys, in these videos is just going to be pretty basic because, again, hence why it's just me scrolling a Google document and speaking to the camera. A lot of this stuff is not rocket science, especially for the audience I'm building this video for. This is kind of everything you need to get a good foundation. I will be shooting more videos on how to get super advanced, which you would do if you're kind of a top e-com brand where 2-3% difference can make a massive difference in your revenue because you bring in so much traffic, you bring in so much revenue. But for most brands, this will suffice perfectly. So 2 main triggers we would use would be your scroll percentage, usually 30-50%, or a time delay between 5 and 10 seconds. So this is what's going to trigger your pop-up to come up on your website when a new customer enters it. We don't use exit intent as much anymore. It's just become less effective over the last couple of years. So that's your trigger. Part 2 is your offer strategy. Now, it's very important to mention firstly that this is very brand dependent. Okay, the offer you use depends entirely on your AOV, your LTV, and your margins. So high AOV plus low LTV brands, let's say for argument's sake, a bed and mattress company, you need to protect your margin because there's a high chance that a customer won't purchase a second time. So let's say what we would do is sign up to win $1,000 per month. This keeps your margin super, super high while still getting a lot of submissions because people obviously want to enter this type of giveaway. It's still enticing enough to work, but it still saves your margin. Like if your AOV is $800 or $900, you're doing a couple of hundred orders per month, like $1,000 store credit or $500 store credit giveaway is not going to hurt as much as 5 or 10% off of every order would hurt. So that's key. If you've got a low AOV, high LTV brand, let's say, for example, supplements, anything along those lines, you can afford to lose some money and give up some margin on the pop-up because they've got a super high chance of coming back again. That's when you make even more profit, right? Because you gave up a bit of margin to acquire them as a new customer, but now here they are again for a second, third, fourth time. They're a lot more profitable and you can likely just get them back with an email. For these people, we'll usually just offer 10% free shipping, a small dollar amount off. We may package it in a different way. For example, you have a mystery discount, blah, blah, blah. That works really, really well. So if you know they're likely going to buy 3 or 5 times, giving up 10% on the first order is pretty much nothing. Okay, this is probably the most important part of this video. It's the tool that we actually use for our pop-ups for all of our clients. It's called Aleah Learn. It's a third-party software built specifically for email marketing and just optimizing conversion rates and sign-up rates for your email pop-up. On average for us, we average about 16% submission rate across all of our clients, which is like massive. Back when people used to have their pop-up on Klaviyo, 5-6% would have been considered pretty good. So it's much better than a native Klaviyo pop-up in most cases. It has more design flexibility, but one of the really, really important things with Aleah Learn as well that's not on here is it has the capability of running a miniature welcome series on your website that the customer needs to go through to finish off submitting their email. This actually massively boosts your conversion rate on your website because it gives you a chance to help the customer learn a bit more about your brand, while staying on the website, which is really, really, really useful. So mobile versus desktop, really short for a reason. It's pretty much the same thing. You're going to have slight visual differences. The mobile pop-up is going to be a little bit smaller. It can trigger faster if you'd like it to. And with the desktop, it can just be more prominent, maybe trigger a little bit slower, but strategy is pretty much exactly the same. So what converts versus what builds quality? And here's the truth. The higher the percentage off, the more submissions you'll get in most cases. Now, we have found in the past that, giving someone 15% and 20%, it doesn't massively increase the submission. So at that point, it's not really worth it. Honestly, if you're doing a percentage, 10% is probably the best to go with, even though it's the most used. There's a reason for that. If you want to do something drastic and kind of stand out for a sale or whatever, 15, 20 is fine. But again, this is heavily brand and product dependent. And this has always been my belief over the last couple of years. If you have good enough flows and strategies with your email and you're working with a good enough team, you can turn anybody into a buyer. So I would always prioritize more traffic over perfect traffic. This is the age-old argument of having double opt-in turned on and so on and so forth to make it more difficult for people to get into your email system. And some people believe that by doing so, you have a better quality of person in your list, meaning that you can get the same revenue or even more revenue from less people. I don't buy into that. I think that if you've got a good enough strategy, good enough team, you can turn anybody into a buyer. Somebody just being on your site in the first place should be enough of an indicator that they're a good enough prospect. So how to A/B test your pop-ups. This is really, really important. You should only ever test one thing at a time. If you test more than that, it's basically pointless. You can't tell what's working and what's not. Some of the high impact variables to test first would be your offer. So a 10% off versus $10 versus free shipping. The second one is your timing. Have the pop-up come up straight away. It's probably not going to work that way, but for example, straight away versus 5 or 10 seconds versus scroll percentage. Your copy, it could be benefit-led versus incentive-led. And your formats could be, modal versus flyout versus embedded. But always start with your offer, not the design. The offer 8 times out of 10 is what will make the difference. So what can kill your list quality? Not testing. If you just set a pop-up and you forget it, you're definitely leaving money on the table. You need to test every month. Small improvements will compound massively. If you can squeeze an extra 2 or 3% out of your email pop-up every year, if you're getting lots of traffic, that's going to make a massive, massive difference, more than you would imagine. So the key takeaways from this video is that pop-ups work. They're still super important, not going anywhere. At the same time, don't overthink it. Pick an offer that makes sense for your brand, whether it be 10% or $5 off or whatever, and just start collecting emails. In the next video, I'm going to be going over welcome flows, what to do, how many emails, best practices. So make sure to tune in for the next one. But for now, see you later.